At the family barbecue, my sister-in-law cracked a cruel joke at my expense. Everyone laughed, but the worst was my husband. He laughed the hardest. While others shrugged it off, I felt a sharp clarity. I was never truly accepted, just tolerated and quietly mocked. That moment changed everything for me. Please stay with me as I share my story, and don't forget to support our channel by subscribing, liking and sharing. That night, after the family barbecue, I couldn't let it go. The joke, his sister's joke, and his laugh ringing loudest in my ears. I needed to say something. So, when we were finally alone, I looked at him, trying to find the right words without sounding like I was overreacting. But the words came out anyway. Did you really think that was funny? It hurt me. He barely looked up from his phone. It was just a joke, he said casually. You're way too sensitive. You always make everything about yourself. His tone was flat, almost dismissive, like I was some kind of drama queen making mountains out of molehills. I felt the familiar sting of being minimized, the exact thing I'd been trying to avoid. As he kept scrolling through his phone, his attention divided. I sat there with a flood of memories rushing in. Moments I'd pushed aside before suddenly screamed for recognition. The subtle digs disguised as teasing, the casual insults hidden in jokes, the times he shrugged off my feelings like they didn't matter. How often had I been told I was too emotional, too much, or overreacting whenever I spoke up? I started to see the pattern clearly, like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. Each small dismissal, every time he told me I was imagining things, wasn't accidental. It was a way to gaslight me, to make me doubt myself. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized it had been happening for years. I grabbed my notebook and began writing. The words poured out as I listed each moment, each phrase that had chipped away at my confidence. The time he laughed when I cried, saying, "Stop being so dramatic." The conversations where I asked for support, only to be told I was making a big deal. The way he constantly shifted blame onto me whenever something went wrong. It wasn't just one joke at the barbecue, it was 1,000 tiny cuts. He didn't say a word, still half absorbed in whatever was on his screen. But inside, I felt a growing fire. This wasn't just hurt anymore, it was clarity. I realized that I couldn't keep pretending it was okay, pretending that this was normal or acceptable. If I stayed silent, I'd be trapped in the same cycle, always doubting myself while they laughed behind my back. That night, I made a quiet promise to myself. I would stop letting him dismiss my pain. I would stop letting their jokes define me. No more pretending, no more silence. I needed to take control, not just for me, but for my own sanity. So I kept writing, filling pages with the truth I'd been too scared to say out loud. And for the first time in a long time, I felt the stirrings of strength. Maybe it was time to stop being too sensitive. Maybe it was time to stop making everything about me. But this time, it was because I was finally putting myself first. I was scrolling through my husband's iPad one evening when a message popped up from the family group chat. Curious, I tapped it open, expecting to see something normal, a plan for the next family gathering or some silly banter. But instead, I realized something chilling. I wasn't even in the chat. The group was full of his family members, laughing and joking about things that cut deep. At first, there were memes, harmless-looking images that on the surface seemed funny, but were actually aimed at me. Then came the jokes about my anxiety, the snide remarks about how high maintenance I supposedly was. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. It was as if I wasn't just excluded. I was the target of their secret amusement, their private entertainment. Scrolling further, I saw my husband's name pop up repeatedly, accompanied by laughing emojis. He wasn't just a passive member, he was actively joining in, encouraging the cruelty. My hands grew cold as I sat frozen reading the messages. Each new insult felt like another layer of betrayal, cutting through the thin veil I had wrapped myself in, trying to convince myself this was all just a misunderstanding. I thought back to every time I had brushed off small comments, telling myself I was imagining things or being overly sensitive. Now, seeing the raw, unfiltered conversations, it was clear I hadn't been paranoid. This was real. They had been mocking me behind my back all along, and my husband was right there with them. I took a deep breath and began to screenshot everything. Every cruel joke, every mocking meme, every whispered insult caught in pixels. I knew I couldn't ignore it, not anymore. These screenshots were proof, not just to him or his family, but to myself. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I was being gaslit and belittled by the people who were supposed to care about me. As I saved each image, A strange mix of sadness and determination washed over me. Sadness for the trust I had lost, for the family I thought I had joined, and for the person I was becoming in their eyes. Determination because this betrayal lit a fire inside me. If they thought I wouldn't fight back, if they believed I'd just quietly disappear, they were wrong. I closed the chat and put down the iPad. My mind raced with questions. How long had this been going on? What else was I missing? Was there anything about our marriage that wasn't a lie? The answers felt overwhelming, but I knew one thing for certain: things would never be the same again. That night, I lay awake, clutching my phone, scrolling through those screenshots over and over. The laughter in the chat haunted me, but it also steeled me. I had to face this truth, and when I did, I would no longer be their secret joke. I would find my own voice, even if it meant breaking away from the family I thought I belonged to. Curiosity gnawed at me until I couldn't ignore it anymore. That night, while my husband was in the shower, I took a deep breath and grabbed his phone. My hands trembled as I unlocked it. Knowing what I was about to do could change everything, but the doubt and pain from the family group chat lingered in my mind, pushing me forward. I needed to know the truth, even if it hurt. I opened his messages and searched for conversations with his sister. What I found went far beyond teasing or harmless sibling banter. Their chats were cruel, filled with gossip and cutting criticisms about me. It was a secret world I had never been invited into, a place where my existence was nothing but a punchline. As I scrolled, I saw her calling me dead weight, a phrase so cold and harsh it took my breath away. My husband's reply hit me like a fist. She's lucky I haven't left her yet. Those words shattered something deep inside me. The man I had trusted, the one I thought loved me, was talking about me like I was disposable, like I was a burden. The messages went on, each one worse than the last. They mocked my anxiety, my habits, even the way I spoke. They shared private jokes that excluded me entirely, and worst of all, they used secret nicknames that made me feel invisible and unwanted. I couldn't believe this was real, that my own husband and his sister were conspiring to tear me down in private. My vision blurred with tears I tried desperately to hold back. The betrayal was suffocating. How long had they been saying these things? How many times had I been gaslit into thinking it was all in my head? Now I had proof, cold, undeniable proof that the people closest to me were quietly destroying me behind my back. But amid the hurt, something unexpected stirred inside me, a fierce determination. They wanted me to feel small, to doubt myself, to stay silent, but I wouldn't let them win. I took screenshots of every cruel message, every biting comment. This wasn't just evidence. It was the fuel I needed to take control. I locked the phone and sat in silence, my heart pounding. The betrayal was more than just painful. It was a turning point. I realized that my marriage, my family, the life I thought I had, it had all been a lie. The person I married wasn't the man I thought he was, and his family never accepted me for who I was. That night, as I lay awake, the weight of their words pressed down on me. But beneath the pain, I felt a quiet strength growing. I wouldn't let their cruelty define me. I was done hiding, done pretending everything was okay. This was the moment I decided to fight back, not with anger or tears, but with a plan. They had made me their joke. Now, I was going to become the story they never saw coming. At the next family gathering, I felt different, detached, watching everything unfold from a distance. I wasn't the same person who had walked into that house months ago, full of hope and trust. Now, every smile felt forced, every laugh hollow. I started noticing the cracks beneath the surface, the fake smiles, the quick glances loaded with unspoken resentment, the passive-aggressive comments masked as jokes. It wasn't just me feeling this way, it was everywhere. My husband was there, but he wasn't really present. When I spoke, his eyes would glaze over, his attention drifting somewhere else, as if I were invisible. It was as though I was talking into a void, and the man I married was no longer listening. Not really. I could see the disconnect clearly now. It wasn't just distance. It was deliberate. His mother hovered nearby, as cold and distant as ever. She didn't greet me warmly or make me feel welcome. Instead, she treated me like a decoration, a trophy wife to be shown off at family events but never truly accepted. Her polite nods and strained hello felt more like a duty than affection. I wasn't family to her. I was a role, an obligation, an outsider allowed to stand at the edges of their world. Looking around, I saw the others too, the way they exchanged looks when I entered the room, the subtle shifts in their conversations. I wasn't part of their inside jokes or their shared history. I was the newcomer, the intruder, the one who didn't belong. It was all so painfully obvious now. This wasn't just about one cruel joke or a few hurtful messages. It was an entire pattern, a web of exclusion woven tightly around me from the start. I realized that my marriage hadn't been built on love or partnership. It was a performance, a carefully scripted play where I was cast in a role I never auditioned for. I was the dutiful wife on the surface, but behind closed doors, I was the problem, the outsider, the mistake they all whispered about. For the first time, I allowed myself to see the truth without trying to justify it or make excuses. This wasn't my family. It never had been. And the man I thought I married, he was part of the act too, playing his role perfectly while hiding his true self behind a mask of smiles and empty words. I felt a surge of something fierce rise inside me, a refusal to keep pretending, to keep playing this role that drained me. I didn't want to be the woman who stood silently on the sidelines, accepting the coldness and cruelty disguised as family. I was done with that. That night, as I lay awake, I made a silent promise to myself. I wouldn't let this lie define me. I wouldn't stay in a marriage where I was nothing more than a character in someone else's story. I was going to reclaim my voice, my dignity, and my life. This was the moment I decided to stop being a part of their script. I was ready to walk away from the fake smiles and empty roles. This was never my family, but I was done pretending it was. A few days later, a text pinged on my phone. It was from his sister, the one who called me deadweight, who laughed at my pain, who played queen in a castle built on mockery. "Sorry if I hurt your feelings, I didn't mean to," she wrote, as if those 10 words could erase everything. It wasn't an apology, it was a performance, just like everything else in that family. The kind of apology that shifts the blame onto me for feeling anything at all. I showed it to my husband, and he barely looked up from his phone. "See?" She said, "Sorry, don't make this bigger than it is," he muttered, already moving on. And just like that, he expected everything to go back to normal, as if my pain was a brief inconvenience, a scene he was eager to skip past. He kissed my forehead and smiled, oblivious to the quiet storm building inside me, so I smiled back. I even replied to the family group chat with a heart emoji and a short fake laugh. I played the role perfectly, sweet, forgiving, easygoing, but under the surface I was working. While they thought I was back to normal, I was collecting passwords, bank statements, screenshots. I checked every shared account, made a list of assets, quietly transferred important emails to a hidden folder, and changed my passwords one by one. I wasn't crying anymore. I wasn't questioning myself or looking for validation. Something inside me had shifted. I didn't want revenge for the sake of it. I wanted clarity. I wanted freedom. And I was going to take it on my terms. They thought I was overreacting. They thought I was too sensitive. Let them keep thinking. Let them laugh and smile and carry on. Because while they played their game, I was setting the board for something else entirely. I was learning how to leave without slamming the door, without warning, quiet, precise, and untouchable. Their apology had no teeth, but I did. I didn't need their approval anymore. I didn't need their fake peace offerings. I was done hoping they would see me. I saw myself now, and that was all I needed. I booked the appointment with the lawyer under my maiden name, quietly, no drama, no questions, just facts, and a folder full of screenshots, statements, and a marriage certificate that suddenly felt more like a contract I'd been tricked into signing. He listened calmly, no shock on his face, like he'd heard stories like mine before. Too many, probably. He told me what I needed to do if I wanted out without leaving a mess behind. That's when I learned just how much power came from knowing your exit plan. I walked out of that office, not with fear, but with purpose. Step 1, secure my finances. I opened a separate bank account in a different institution, one he didn't know about. I quietly redirected my paychecks. I scrolled through our joint accounts, looking for anything I might have missed. Then, slowly, carefully, I moved half of our savings into my new account. Not everything, just enough to start over without asking anyone for help. Step 2, assets. I created a list of every single thing we owned. Cars, electronics, furniture, even the dog's vet bills. I scanned receipts, took photos of serial numbers, and saved everything twice. One on a USB drive I hid in my gym bag, and one on a cloud account only I had access to. I didn't cry anymore. I didn't feel heartbreak. The love I had for him had been buried under too many jokes, too many cold shoulders, too many nights where I lay awake wondering what I had done wrong. Now, all I felt was clarity, cold, sharp clarity. At night I'd watch them, him and his sister, laughing in the living room like nothing was wrong, her feet up on the coffee table, him tossing popcorn at her, both of them acting like smug teenagers. They still thought they had the upper hand. They thought I had forgiven, forgotten, moved on. They thought I was soft. I wasn't. I smiled, not out of happiness, but because I knew something they didn't. I knew that while they were mocking me, I was quietly dismantling the life they thought I was trapped in. I knew that every password I changed, every dollar I moved, every secret I kept brought me one step closer to the door they didn't even know existed. I was leaving, and I was going to do it in a way they'd never see coming. No fights, no drama, just silence, and then nothing. The invitation was warm, disarming. Let's have one last barbecue at our place, I told them. I want to make peace, clear the air, move on from all that drama. They ate it up like they always did. Smiles, emojis, fake warmth. Even his sister replied with a heart. My husband looked relieved, proud even, like I'd finally grown up and let go. He kissed my cheek that morning, not knowing he was kissing goodbye to everything. They came dressed in cheer, full of noise and casual cruelty disguised as charm. Burgers sizzled, glasses clinked, laughter echoed around the backyard. His mother complimented my dress like she was doing charity work. His sister made another offhand joke about how emotional I could get, and he laughed again, too loud, too free, like someone who had no idea they were seconds from impact. And then I picked up the remote. Nobody noticed at first. The TV on the patio came to life, screen glowing above the fire pit. Just a slideshow, I said with a smile. Memories. They chuckled and kept sipping their drinks until the first screenshot hit the screen, then another and another. Their private family group chat, cast in 4K. The memes, the nicknames, the cruel little jokes, the laughing emojis from my husband, the messages where his sister called me a parasite, and he replied, "She doesn't even know half of it." My hands didn't shake. I stood still, watching their faces shift. One by one, they turned. His sister paled. His mum looked like she wanted to crawl out of her own skin. My husband's face crumpled from confusion into horror. He stepped forward, voice rising. "What is this? What the hell is this?" I didn't answer. I didn't owe him one. I just said, "Now we're all caught up." Silence dropped like a stone into the center of the gathering, heavy and unmovable. No one laughed. No one moved. The mask was off. The air smelled like shame. Then quietly, I turned and walked inside, leaving them with their own words playing in a loop behind me. Let them sit with it. Let them hear themselves. That was my last barbecue, and the first time I'd ever truly felt free. He followed me into the house after the barbecue, face red, breathing heavy, acting like he was the one betrayed. "What the hell was that?" he barked. "Are you insane? You just humiliated me in front of my entire family." I didn't even turn around. I poured myself a glass of water and sipped it slowly, like he wasn't standing there unraveling. "You embarrassed yourself," I said quietly. "All I did was show the truth." He kept shouting, demanding I explain, demanding I fix it, apologize, delete the messages, pretend it didn't happen. "You went through my phone," he accused, as if that was the real violation. I finally faced him and looked straight into his eyes. Calm, steady. "I don't owe you anything. Not anymore." That stunned him more than anything. Not the party, not the group chat, not even the fact that his sister ran off crying. Just those words. Because for the first time, I wasn't explaining myself. I wasn't defending my emotions or begging to be seen. I was done. He reached for my arm. I stepped back. "I'm leaving," I said simply, "and I won't be coming back." He tried to laugh it off at first, like I was being dramatic again. "Where are you going to go?" he sneered. "You think you can just walk out and be fine?" I didn't answer. I walked to the bedroom, grabbed the small suitcase I'd packed days ago, and left. By the time he realized I was serious, I was already halfway to the city. I turned off my phone that night, blocked his number, blocked his sister, deleted the shared calendar. I checked into a small apartment I'd quietly rented 2 weeks earlier and sat on the bare floor, not crying, Not trembling, just breathing, peacefully, for the first time in years. A week later, the divorce papers were delivered to him. I'd already met with the lawyer, already filed, already made sure my name was taken off every joint responsibility and every shared account. I was gone, cleanly, legally, and strategically. He tried calling from a new number. I didn't answer. He tried guilt-tripping through email. I archived it. He tried to act like we could fix it. That's when it hit him. I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't broken. I was prepared. Even the lawyer looked at me after the final meeting and said, "You were smart. Most people don't leave like this. They run. You walked." Yes, I walked. Not out of fear, but out of clarity. And I never looked back. The silence was the first thing I noticed. No buzzing phone, no forced smiles, no walking on eggshells. Just silence and space. Months had passed since that final barbecue, and I hadn't spoken a single word to him, his sister, or anyone in that family. Not once. And I didn't miss them, not even for a second. I got a small apartment, just enough for me and my thoughts. I bought a second-hand desk, placed it by the window, and started writing again. Something I hadn't done since before I met him. It felt strange at first, like trying to remember an old song. But soon, the words came pouring out. Not as a diary, not for revenge, just a story. My story. I posted it anonymously, thinking no one would care. But they did. Strangers left comments like, "This happened to me. You're not alone. Thank you for saying it out loud." I didn't expect to feel seen by people I'd never met. But there it was. Validation, honesty, understanding. The very things I spent years begging for in my own marriage, now freely offered by complete strangers. And that felt better than revenge ever could. I still get emails from him sometimes. Apologies, explanations, even memories he thinks will make me feel something again. I don't read them. He's still trying to fix the image of himself in my eyes. But I don't see him anymore. I don't even remember what his laugh sounds like. Not really. There's no rage in me. No need to scream or cry or prove I was right. I was the joke once, yes. They all laughed. But now I'm the story. And the story belongs to me. Some nights I sit by the window with tea and reread what I wrote. I think of how far I came, from confusion to clarity, from silence to voice. I didn't destroy them. I simply walked away. That was enough. I don't need them to suffer. I just need them to know. I lived. I healed. I moved on. And now? Now I write the ending on my terms. Do you think she was right to expose them all and walk away without looking back? Or should she have stayed and tried to fix what was broken? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you want more powerful stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss one.